There was one that I had put a pin in, and I think it's of interest to me, and I think a lot of people right now. And the question was about diversity in the news. So I'll ask you this one. The question, I think it was from Dwayne. If my memory serves me correct, from like 10 minutes ago. Sorry if your name isn't Dwayne. I believe Dwayne asks, how is the push for diversity and inclusion changing how news is being vetted, edited, and reported? And then is it a priority? So how is diversity and inclusion changing how news is being edited, vetted, and reported?
Well, Dwayne, thank you. Such a wonderful, important question right now. I mean, it's always important, and especially in this year when we've had the debates that the country has had, the reckoning, if you will, over racial justice in this country. It's interesting, the media, you know, we've been so good over the years at pointing a finger at other institutions, and calling them out for being fair, for being sensitive, for being balanced when it comes to questions of race. And yet we in the media, I think, have not always at all stood up ourselves to that very standard that we impose on other institutions, on politicians, on people who serve in public life, on you name it. But we haven't held ourselves accountable. We are doing better, but we still have a long way to go. Today, I would say I've never worked at a news organization that didn't say our goal is to be as diverse as possible, is to look like the people we cover. Having said that, we haven't met that standard, and we're always striving to do better. It is absolutely a high priority at the NewsHour. It has been from the very beginning when Jim Lehrer and Robin McNeil started it back in 1975. They brought on board as their principal correspondent Charlene Hunter Gault, who was a major figure in the civil rights era. She integrated the University of Georgia. Charlene became the face, one of the prominent faces of the NewsHour from the very beginning, and stayed with the program for many years. Gwen Ifill came along, as you mentioned, in the late 90s. This was in a period when I had taken, I guess, a detour, you would call it, to a cable channel, CNN. Jim Lehrer used to say I went wandering in the wilderness of cable news for a few years. But it was while I was away, Gwen came to the NewsHour, quickly became an essential and absolutely adored and admired figure as a journalist, as a woman, and obviously as a pioneering journalist, a woman journalist of color. And then when I came back to the NewsHour in the mid 2000s, Gwen and I were both correspondents. After Jim Lehrer retired, we co-anchored the program together. But to get to until her untimely passing in 2016. But to get to your question, we need to do better. It is, we have made a conscious effort at the NewsHour to bring in more, not just individuals of color, Black correspondent on the air, Yamiche Alcindor. I point to Yamiche with great pride because she has been such a standout, such a courageous journalist covering the White House for the last 4 years for the NewsHour. But also behind the scenes as editors, as reporters, as people doing technical work, writers. We are constantly thinking about that. And not just that, thinking about the guests that we have on the program. Who do we interview? Do we, if we have a choice like tonight, we made an absolute conscious choice. I was interviewing political reporters in 3 battleground states, Texas, Florida, and Michigan. And we absolutely made a commitment at the beginning of the day. One of these journalists is going to be a person of color. I ended up interviewing a young woman, extraordinary reporter with the Texas Tribune, to talk about the Texas presidential contest. So, I mean, it's in our DNA. We are committed to it every day. And I'm going on way longer than I intended to, but what I really want, the point I want to make is that it does make a difference in our coverage, because I think there's that often it does, we do need, not often, we always need to have that additional perspective, eyes, ears, brain thinking about what we are doing from individuals with different backgrounds. And I can't do it by myself. Other members of our team can't do it. We have to be diverse or we can't report on the country. It's really as simple as that.